And the Lord said, Who then is the faithful and wise manager, whom his master will set over his household, to give them their portion of food at the proper time? Blessed is that servant, whom his master will find so doing when he comes. Truly I say to you, he will set them over all his possessions. We are glad you have chosen to learn more about the role of the vestry in managing church finances. Few subjects create more confusion, anxiety, or frustration. But you don't need to be a trained accountant in order to understand church finance. By the end of this module, you should have an understanding of the basics of good financial practices and controls, why a church needs a budget, and why you need to understand it, and what expenses a church is required to pay in order to operate, as well as basic costs of operations. Perhaps the single most important thing to understand is that the vestry is responsible for all financial and property matters. According to both canon and civil law, it is the vestry and not the priest who is accountable for the financial affairs of the church, while the financial officers, more on them later, manage the finances on a day-to-day basis. The whole vestry bears the legal responsibility for the church's money and property. Of course, this does not mean that the clergy are therefore left out. It is appropriate that the priest is part of all conversations around stewardship and budgeting, and may also be included in other significant decisions and conversations about money. But in the end, it is the vestry that holds full financial responsibility. This includes, but is not limited to, the following: financial controls and accountability, including annual audits and parochial reports, creation and monitoring of an annual budget, calculating and paying taxes, managing and paying employee salaries and benefits, such as health care and pension. To ensure the transparency and accountability that is necessary for effective governance, every vestry needs to ensure that it has the following: a good understanding of the major sources of income and categories of expense, an annual budget that is adjusted for each year, regular financial reporting both to the vestry and to the whole congregation. In the latter case, this needs to be only a snapshot, except for your annual meeting. At that time, the congregation should review the whole budget. A well-defined set of financial policies, procedures, and controls. They should be reviewed with all new vestry and thoroughly understood and followed by financial officers and any staff who deal with finances. The ability to account for and forecast major non-budgetary expenses, such as large-scale building improvements and maintenance. Redundancy and succession planning for all financial officers and staff. While many churches come to rely on their accounting warden, who has served faithfully for many years, this is not good practice either for the church or the warden. There should always be someone else who understands the job, so that they can cover during vacation or illness. Vestry should also always be looking to train and recruit the next generation of financial officers, so that they are ready to step into the job when the terms of the veteran leaders expire. Most vestries have at least one key person or people who work on the finances. They include accounting wardens, treasurers, bookkeepers or accountants who are hired to do the work. And sometimes the parish administrator may also share in the financial duties as part of their job. The specifics for each role can vary, depending on the church bylaws and practices. The job description for the accounting warden at one church may be more like the role of a treasurer at another. It is important that you have a clear understanding of what is required by your bylaws, and the duties then conform to the modern norms of best practices. More on what best practices are and where to read about them later. Financial officers and staff are responsible for the following: entering and reviewing all financial transactions, payroll, reviewing and approving expenses and then generating the checks, regularly reviewing financial records, reconciling bank accounts on a routine basis, paying benefits and taxes, and regularly producing financial reports, balance sheets, and income statements. Remember, responsible management of the finances is the responsibility of every Vestry member.